Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with more of my Azamina Snake Eye Yummy pile. This is quickly becoming one of my current favorite decks to play, and I've been ranking up through Diamond Rank Ladder pretty nicely with it. Without even really trying, just trying to get replays for a video more than anything else, not trying to actually, you know, rank up. I actually did go from Diamond 5 to 3 with this build. I know it's just Diamond, it's not the most impressive thing, but I still thought it was really neat. So we're going to show off some more gameplay here, starting by going first. I started by normal summoning one of my Yummy monsters, but I think that really was a misplay. I really should have begun with normal summon Poplar here, even though I had, I think it was 2 Cookie Yummy in the opening hand. Yeah, so my thought process was, oh, I can normal summon one and then special summon the other. But that was a little bit optimistic of me. I kind of assumed that I was going to end up accessing the Snake Eye part of my line. If I had started with normal summon Poplar, I could have turned Poplar into Link Kribo, then specialed my Yummy monsters, and then had much easier access to both lines. But here, we are going to get hit with the mid-combo Nibiru. And this is really, like, Nibiru is not the most common hand trap in this meta, but I will say the combo line for this deck is really greedy, and Nibiru is definitely something to be concerned with. So, by the way, the reason that I ended up chaining the, which one was it? The Lollipo Yummy? Yeah, I chained Lollipo Yummy there, so that way it would end up back in my extra deck and not in the graveyard. And then I can make some follow-up plays potentially with that Lollipo Yummy way. But yeah, they're going to drop the nib, and we're going to get the token. We're not on Link Spider. We don't have room in the extra deck, but we still have plenty of ways to extend here. We're going to use the surprise in order to revive Cup's Yummy Way. We can then special summon the 2 Yummy monsters in our hand. We're going to make the Shamisen, Samsara, Sorrow Cat. And we're also going to make Herald of the Arclight. But I'm not really content to end with just the Herald and nothing else here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to revive the Sorrow Cat. We're going to link the Sorrow Cat and the token into IP Masquerade. Now we could end on IP plus Herald, but that doesn't really do anything because Herald's going to tribute itself and then IP doesn't have anything to link with. So a bit unconventional, I'm going to link the 2 of these into Sprite Elf. That'll trigger my Herald of the Arclight's effect to add Illusion of Chaos. Now we can activate Illusion of Chaos, adding the Magician's Souls and putting it back into the deck. We're going to activate Magician's Souls, sending away that Illusion of Chaos to summon, and I'll draw a card here, really hoping for like Bonfire or OSS, but I guess I'll take Droll for the opponent's turn. Since our opponent controls a monster, we can use Elf in order to revive IP, and then I can link away the Magician's Souls in order to summon out the Link Kribo. Unfortunately, I also had to put back my Cupsy Yummy Way due to the Shamisen Samsara Sorrow Cat. I guess that was a bit of a misplay to put back the Lollipo, now that I think about it. Because now Elf doesn't have a Yummy monster to revive. If I hadn't have chained Lollipo Yummy Way, then I would have been able to do Yummy Disruption on my opponent's turn as well. But I guess I just wasn't really thinking that far ahead. So we're just going to have to deal with, you know, what we've got on board. Which isn't nothing. IP, Elf, Link, Kribo. Okay, so they are going to be on Hecahands here. And as soon as they add with the trap card, we're going to use the Droll and Mockbird. Ibtel gets to activate. They're going to summon out the Gygus, but we're definitely going to want to use the IP to go into SP now. Because, of course, we don't want their Gygus to take one of my monsters and then they can go into the Jaza. Okay, they're going to end up overlaying the Typhone on top of their Nibiru. And they do actually end up activating before they battle, which is a huge misplay, because now I can chain Little Knight. I'm not even going to target the Typhone, though. I'm actually going to bounce out my own Little Knight and Elf and banish both of them. And then the Typhone, the effect states, once per turn you can detach 1 material from this card, return 1 monster from the field to the hand. It has to return 1 monster, not just an opponent's monster, and since Typhone is the only monster in play, it goes back to the hand. They're going to set 2 pass back over to us. We know they have a couple of Hecahands trap cards, or at least the one, the bait, but they're not able to use that because they don't control a Hecahands monster or any of my monsters. So we're going to put back the Mignon and the Cupsy Yummy, or not the Cupsy Yummy, the Yummy Snatchy, but as soon as we normal summon Poplar, our opponent's going to concede. So I really could have avoided a lot of that headache if I had, 1, started with normal summon Poplar, because then even after Nibiru, I could have gone OSS and then done Snake Eye plays, which actually could have even pivoted back into Yummy stuff. And 2, if I hadn't put back Cupsy Yummy Way, we could have had Yummy Disruptions on the opponent's turn as well. But even in spite of those misplays, we were still able to come out on top with a very limited end board. It's really easy to look at a combo like this, like a combo-based deck, rather, where you're pulling off this big giant end board and it's like, oh, but if you don't get that, you basically lose, right? And again, a combo line this greedy is really punished by Nibiru. But here, even in spite of that Nibiru punishing us, we were still able to come out on top. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next replay. All right, this time we are up against Magnet Warrior, another combo spam deck that's almost, if not arguably more, as disgusting than this one here. At the very least, I'm not summoning any barrier statues, I'll say that much. But okay, so here we do have the Wanted. We're going to fire that off during the draw phase, adding the Diabell Star. All right, now we're going to actually begin with normal summon Cookie Yummy. Even though I added the Diabell Star, I don't really want to begin by normal summoning Snake Eye Oak, because obviously that doesn't do anything. And here we can just save the Diabell Star for follow-up. If our Yummy line gets disrupted, we can just pivot directly into Snake Eye plays. And again, Snake Eye can always pivot back into Yummy by going Link Kribo plus one of your level 1 Snake Eyes into a Yummy Synchro monster. Now, if you haven't seen how to combo with this deck, definitely check out the video linked in the description below, because you're probably wondering why I'm making Lollipo Yummy and then going into Cupsy Yummy way. And the reason for that is because we only have one Yummy Snatchy in the extra deck, so we do the combo line this way as a result. I'm going to discard the Snake Eye Oak with the Cupsy Yummy way, because I'm going to be able to pull it out of the graveyard later with Flamberge, and we don't actually need access to Oak in order to be able to summon Flamberge out of the deck. So here's the Shamisen, Samsara, Sorrow Cat. We're going to revive the Marshmallow Yummy with Surprise, and then Marshmallow wheels Surprise back to hand. Now we're going to Synchro Summon the Sorrow Cat plus Cupsy Yummy into Herald of the Arclight. And then we can Synchro Summon the Resila of the White Forest using Cupsy Yummy Way plus Herald of the Arclight. This will let me not only search off the Resila, but we get to grab a Ritual Monster off the Herald as well, which, as we know from the last replay and the combo guide, is going to be Illusion of Chaos. Resila is going to grab LZ. We're going to use Illusion of Chaos to find the Magician's Souls, and then put back Illusion of Chaos. Now LZ gets to dump the Yummy Surprise in order to summon and then search LZ Azamina, which we're then going to special summon and then Synchro Summon into the Baron de Fleur. My opponent was getting past priority this whole time, so I don't know if they were on Nibiru or another hand trap, like maybe a Veiler or Imperm they were holding, but they had something. Whatever it was, I'm really glad to have the Baron de Fleur out now to be able to counter it. So yeah, we'll go grab that Deception off the LZ Azamina, use it with the Magician's Souls to grab Howled Azamina, and then we can summon out the Mu Rishialago. Mu Rishialago effect gets to activate. We're going to grab the Sinister Spoils of Betrayal Silvera here, because we already started our combo line with Wanted, otherwise we just grab Wanted here. And now I can send away the Silvera with the Howled Azamina in order to be able to summon out the Ilia Sylvia. Alright, we're going to also use the Sorrow Cat here, putting back the Herald of the Arclight, and then tuning it with our leftover Yummy Body in order to summon back the Herald. That's how you can combo with it and still have it as an inboard piece. We'll send away the Mu Rishialago on board to summon out Diabell Star, who can set the original Sinful Spoils, Snake Eye. We can then tribute Diabell Star to pull out Snake Eye Ash from the deck. Snake Eye Ash is going to activate. We'll summon out the Poplar, special summoning the Poplar. We can then go into Link Kribo here, and then of course we'll be able to put Poplar into the Spell Trap Zone. Like so. And then now we're going to activate Snake Eye Ash effect, send away the Poplar. Here's the Flamberge. I did this a little bit out of sequence though, so what I'm going to end up having to do here, after I put back my Silvera and draw a card, is I'm going to use Baron de Fleur to pop my own Flamberge. That way we can activate the Flamberge and then revive two of our Snake Eye bodies. No room to summon with Oak, but it's not that big of a deal. We'll just link our bodies into IP Masquerena. Then we can go Link Kribo plus IP into Sprite Elf. And now we can use Sprite Elf to revive the Cupsy Yummy way. And then during our opponent's turn, once they've got a monster on board, we're going to revive the IP Masquerena. So, a little bit of a roundabout way to do it, but still sets up our full end board. Obviously, the Harpy's Feather Duster is totally fine here. I do not care about this Deception. They're going to go for Deuteron next. Remember that Herald of the Arclight's got that Floodgate effect, so that's why I got banished there. Magnet Bonding is going to add Beta, the Electromagnet Warrior, and Herald of the Arclight Floodgate effect is really putting in a lot of work because for the Conductive Warrior Linear Magnum plus minus, sending the monsters from the deck to the graveyard is a cost, but with Herald of the Arclight up, they cannot pay the cost, so they are not able to summon out the plus minus. They're going to go for the Electromagnet Gamma, letting them special summon from hand now that they have a monster on board. As mentioned before, Elf can summon out the IP. We'll let them special from hand. It's going to be Electromagnet Beta. They're going to try to search off that. I'll fire off the Ash Blossom here, just so that they don't get the Sigma minus, I think is the one that fuses, right? And then plus is the one that summons from graveyard. Anyway, as soon as Adamancipator Researcher hits the board, we definitely want to make sure we go into SP before they have a chance to either Excavate or Synchro Summon. So SP Little Knight's going to banish the Researcher. They're going to activate Triple Attack. We're going to negate that with Ilia Sylvia. Definitely like using Ilia Sylvia here because Ilia Sylvia negates but doesn't destroy, but that doesn't matter against a normal spell. They are going to end up battling over the Herald of the Arclight. My opponent's probably like, finally, that's off the board. They're going to set a card and then pass. What I didn't realize going into my turn here is that all these Electromagnet Warriors have this secret effect where on the opponent's turn, you can tribute them and special summon any level 4 Magnet Warrior from the deck. My opponent is firing these off left and right. I think they really want me to use my Baron Omni Negate, but all I'm doing right now is using the Destroy a Card effect on my opponent's face down card. I am going to take this opportunity to tag out my Yummy Synchro monster. We're going to use the Cookie Yummy in order to pop the Epsilon. I went for Epsilon because it does not have this same quick effect. Okay, so there's Electromagnet Gamma. They're going to dump Telusion, popping the Epsilon. Sigma Plus gets to activate. They're going to use Electromagnet Beta effect, or Gamma rather, effect again, because I don't think these are actually once per turn, which is kind of insane. Yeah, the first effect is once per turn, but this one isn't. Alright, they're going to go for the Omega Plus effect, turning my Baron de Fleur face down. However, this is actually a pretty huge misplay for them, and now I kind of wish I'd used the Omni Negate, because when Baron is turned face down and then flipped face up again, which I can do because I summoned her last turn, now I can use both of her once per turn effects again. Or I guess once on the field in the case of the Omni Negate, but like I can even destroy a card again because Baron was flipped down and then back up. So yeah, we can use the Marshmallow Yummy to get back the Mignon, summon a couple of Yummy monsters to get our board up, and now we just have way more than enough damage for lethal here. So there we go, that was a pretty traditional end board, played out in a little bit of an unconventional way, but still we're able to counter their plays against us and OTK, thanks to how ridiculous this deck's end board is. But still got some more gameplay to show you. Let's go into the next one. Alright, got a going second game here. This time we're going to be up against Odion. Actually, been a minute since I've faced Odion, but definitely not the kind of deck that I'm super eager to go second against for obvious reasons. This hand looks pretty solid. This is a bit of an older build where I was on Sinful Spoils of Subversion Snake Eye. I'm not playing this card anymore. The reason I was trying it out is because the theory is that it's both a Sinful Spoils and a Snake Eye card, so you can either set it off the Star or search it off Poplar to then send off of one of your White Forest effects. But it turns out it just wasn't necessary, so I took it out for another hand trap, I think, second Perulia. They're going to use Anubis to add the Man with the Mark. We can draw and Lockbird that. So that way Man's not able to add a card, they have to send to the Temple of the Kings. They are going to set 3, however, before passing over to me. Drawing for turn, Flamberge is a pretty terrible top deck, but we're going to begin with Special Summon Marshmallow Yummy. They're going to chain Apophis the Serpent, which of course will let them set Apophis the Swamp Deity. And that can be activated during this turn. So we're going to have to watch out for that. Marshmallow Yummy, we're going to link that off into the Yummy Snatchy. Alright, Yummy Snatchy effect gets to activate. However, they're going to chain Songs of the Dominators, which is going to allow them to negate the Yummy Snatchy. However, thankfully, they don't get to destroy it because they don't actually have a trap card in their graveyard. Oh, sorry, they don't destroy it either way. The trap card just lets them add another Dominus card. Well, either way, I'm definitely grateful for that. So we're going to normal summon Poplar. They're going to chain Apophis the Swamp Deity, which was pretty predictable. So now we just have one more face down card to worry about. And honestly, we're looking pretty good here because we're going to summon out the Lollipo Yummy Way. It's going to activate and allow us to revive, and we also get to put Poplar in the back row. Basically, I was chain blocking the Lollipo Yummy Way effect here. So there's Marshmallow, and then Snatchy. Now we can make the Cupsy Yummy Way, or I would if it wasn't for Super Poly. Honestly, if it wasn't Super Poly, if it was just about any other trap card in the Odion deck, I think I would have been fine. I guess unless it was a Solemn that negated my summon, but Super Poly. I was just like, I'm done. Just given the rest of the cards in my hand, there's nothing they could have left me with that would have been enough for me to continue my plays. So, womp womp. A little bit unfortunate. Yeah, this was kind of one of the games that made me want to take out the Sinful Swirls of Subversion Snake Eye, because I was like, I just never want to see this card. And I don't need to search for it in order to be able to make plays. So, yeah, this game was probably the reason I took it out. But I do have one last replay to show you before we finish off. And that last game is going to be up against Synchron. And this will be more of us establishing boards and then also playing the end board out. However, we do get disrupted, if I remember right. I think we get Drolled in this game. That's right, we do get Drolled in this game. I'm remembering now. Okay, so we're going to begin with normal summon Lollipo Yummy and then link off into the Yummy Snatchy. Alright, now we can go Yummy Snatchy effect. We're going to place the Mignon. Mignon's going to revive the Lollipo Yummy. And we can tune them, of course, into the Lollipo Yummy Way. Again, you wouldn't normally do it this way, but for our deck, we do it this way because we're only on one Yummy Snatchy. So here's the Yummy Snatchy in the Lollipo back. And now we can summon out the Cupsy Yummy Way. Cupsy Yummy Way effect's going to activate. We're going to grab the Cupsy Yummy and Marshmallow, and we can get rid of the Fuelos. And of course, this is where we're going to get hit with the Droll and Lockbird, so no more searching for us. So the Cupsy Yummy doesn't get to grab the surprise here, and obviously Secret Summoning into Resila won't do anything, because we won't get either of our searches for Resila or Herald of the Arclight. We are going to summon Herald of the Arclight, but first I'm going to summon LZ Azamina, and then fuse it with the regular LZ in my hand to summon out Ilia Sylvia. Obviously, you normally would not want to open both of these, especially because that means you can't special summon LZ off her own effect. However, in this case, it was actually a benefit. Also, we're going straight into Ilia Sylvia, no reason to go from Rurishilago, because she cannot search a Sinful Spoils card. Now, I'm going to actually link away the Cupsy Yummy Way and the Shamisen Samsara Suracat for Sprite Elf, which I could have had point to the Ilia Sylvia. It really wouldn't have been any different. I probably should have just done that, but now I can revive Saracat by its effects, making Herald of the Arclight, and then I'll use Sprite Elf to revive Cupsy Yummy Way. So as you can see, even though we got hit with the Droll and Lockbird, we're still able to end on Sprite Elf, multiple Omni Negates, and the Cupsy Yummy Way to do Yummy Disruptions. And yeah, I only have Ilia Sylvia because I opened, my two LZs. However, even without Ilia Sylvia, I think Elf, Herald, and Cupsy Yummy Way, a pretty standard Yummy end board, is still pretty impressive to end on through a Droll and Lockbird for a deck this combo intensive. So they're going to draw for a turn. They're going to special summon the Junkmeister. Now Junkmeister gets to add the, the one that tributes to summon. We'll see it in a second. But I'm going to take this opportunity to activate Cupsy Yummy Way, reviving the Yummy Snatchy and Cupsy Yummy. Junk Armor, that's the one. I'm going to try to use Cupsy Yummy to draw. They're going to Ash Blossom that. Totally fine with me. Do not care about that at all. And they're also going to summon the Junk Armor. Note that I'm not using either of my negates because I don't need to. Because at this point, as soon as I summon Junk Armor, I'm going to activate the effect of Yummy Snatchy and will Synchro Summon into Cookie Yummy Way, turning their two monsters face down. Then, if they continue to have more follow-up, I can start negating stuff with Ilia Sylvia, then Herald of the Arclight. I would definitely want to use Ilia Sylvia first, because while Herald of the Arclight is on the field, of course, it's also got that Floodgate effect. I definitely also like turning the two monsters face down before using the negates here, because now, even if they are able to keep comboing, they have two fewer main monster zones to work with, which in the case of Synchron, super duper matters. So there we go, another pretty clean win, even through a hand trap. Why don't we take a look at the deck list here before we finish off? Alright, so here is the list. It's the exact same list from the combo guide I put out earlier this week. Again, that's going to be linked down in the description below if you're curious as to how to use that. But yeah, I am really, really liking this build. This is probably one of my favorite pile decks to play lately. I really just like jamming extra synchro summons into decks that, well, regardless if they can or can't do it, I just like putting in extra synchro summons. And yeah, I've seen other people toying around with this idea, so wanted to go for it myself. And I really love the small white forest package that we are able to use to pivot into Azamina. It's also really cool that we can so reliably send spell and trap cards for our white forest stuff, even though we're only playing 9 total spell and trap cards in our deck. And really, the Silvera, you could take this out and just play like another hand trap or something if you wanted to instead. And I have kind of thought about doing that because Silvera only comes up in certain combo lines where you end on Diabellstar without, or rather you end on Diabellstar after you've already done your Snake Eye stuff. But even in those scenarios, you can just go Elf. Like because you would end on IP plus Diabellstar in addition to your 3 Omni Negates. So in that case, you would still have Elf in your extra, and you could just link away IP plus Diabellstar into Elf. On your turn, Elf revives a yummy Synchro monster. On your opponent's turn, Elf revives IP. So yeah, the Silvera is really not needed. What is nice, though, is just having a Sinful Spoils card that's not Wanted or OSS in the deck, because that does matter sometimes. Like, especially if you begin your combo line with Wanted, you need to have something for your Murashilago to be able to search, and this can only add from the deck to the hand. So having another Sinful Spoils card, I think, does end up being pretty important. So for the time being, I'm gonna leave the Silvera in, I think, but it is very optional, I think, in the grand scheme of things. Another thing you could cut if you want to make room for more hand traps is honestly like a Cookie Yummy, or I guess if you really want to, you could go down to 1 Lollipo. The deck has a lot of starters. Any Snake Eye starter and any Yummy monster are full combos. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 starters for our combo line. I think Deception would even work as well, right? Because we could start with Murashilago to find Wanted, to find Diabellstar, which finds your Snake Eye setup, and Snake Eye can always pivot into Yummy. So yeah, I think that's actually 18 starters, which for a 40 card deck made up of, you know, so many engines is actually kind of insane. There is an argument also to go over 40 cards because we have so many one-ofs that we don't want to open that are searched as part of our combo lines, like the, you know, LZs, and that's also why we're only on like 1 of each of all these spell and trap cards, because they're all super duper searchable, and we definitely don't need any more than 1 copy. Well, I'd definitely play more than 1 Bonfire if I could, but yeah, even for stuff like the Deception, you see I even own a full playset, but you don't need a full playset. Just the 1 is fine because it's so searchable. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to say about the list for now. As always, I want to give you a huge thanks for watching all the way to the end, especially for videos like this where like it's less me covering like a popular meta deck and more just like a passion project. If you find this deck as enthralling as I do, even half as enthralling as I do, that means a lot. I'm really glad you're watching. Thank you. But yeah, also want to give thanks to our YouTube members and Patreon subscribers. So let's move to our outro so we can do that. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.